Hi guys. So today's video is just going to be outlining a few common things that writers have a tendency to do when they're first writing or if they're first time writers that a lot of times readers pick up as kind of amateur mistakes. These things are good to know regardless of whether you're a writer, because if you're just a reader and you're noticing that there's something about the book that you're reading that feels very cliche or very beginner level, but you're not quite sure what it is, a lot of times it's these things. And if you're a writer, you're gonna want to know about these things so you can avoid them. As a disclaimer, none of these things are absolutes. They're just things that you should try to avoid. They can be done really well, they have been done really well, but for the most part, you're probably not the exception, so don't assume you're gonna be the person to do it really well. The very first thing that a lot of writers rely on is dream sequences. Many times too, authors will start their book with a dream sequence and then have the character wake up from their dream. And it's not that those kinds of openings can't be done well, but they've been done so many times, and you probably don't want your book to be recognized for being cliche. You want your book to be recognized for being original. The other reason dream sequences often don't really connect with readers is because a lot of people don't have extremely vivid dreams, and a lot of people don't remember their dreams. So to get to know a character through their dreams is not how you would organically get to know another human being. You get to know people through your interactions with them, or through their interactions with other people, through their actual actions, and not through whatever's going on when they go to sleep. If you use dream sequences after the beginning, maybe in the middle of the book, towards the end of the book, or anywhere else but the start, they sometimes can come across kind of jarring, and they can take the readers out of the story. If it's something quick, that's debatable, but a lot of times people have these really long dream sequences that try to show you something haunting in the character's past, or they try to show you this is why this character hates this other character, when you probably could convey that information in another way. The next common writer mistake that's very similar to dream sequences is the use of flashbacks. Most first-time writers use flashbacks because it's what we see done in TV shows and movies all the time. It works in TV shows and movies. One of my favorite shows ever, Daredevil, has you learn about Matt Murdock's past by showing you what his life was like as a kid. That form of storytelling, though, rarely works in books. One is that it's extremely jarring and very aggravating to most readers because you introduce this awesome character, you get people excited to learn about them and to learn about whatever antagonist that they have to face, and then all of a sudden you're throwing the reader back 20 years to let them know about some random event. This can be done extremely well, and it has been done extremely well in some books that I really love. For example, the Stormlight Archive books by Brandon Sanderson have flashback sequences throughout each of the books for various characters, so you get to know about them when they were young. V.E. Schwab is another author who does this. She did it in A Conjuring of Light, the Third Shades of Magic book, and it was done extremely well. But don't assume that you're gonna be that person. Don't assume you're V.E. Schwab or Brandon Sanderson, because more than likely you're using flashbacks as a way for the reader to get to know the character, for the reader to get to understand their past or why they are the way they are, when you want that to come out through the story. In real life, when you meet another person, you don't meet them and then all of a sudden go like look through their photo albums and records of their past. You learn about them by interacting with them, you learn about them through having shared experiences with them, and that's what you want in your story. You want your readers to get to know the characters as if they would get to know an actual person. The third common writer mistake that I have seen multiple times, I think people have kind of come away from it, but that would be the use of a mirror to describe your main character. The other thing I commonly see is if it's not a mirror, it's a picture of the person's family, and then they compare themselves to that picture. It's most often done at the very beginning of the book because writers think, I have to let the reader know what my main character looks like. And so often, this is how you really know it's usually a mistake, is they start the book with a dream sequence, character wakes up, runs to wash their face or get dressed, they look in the mirror, and then they think about their physical appearance. We've all seen that done. We've all heard about that kind of an opening. We've seen it in movies. It's extremely cliche, but it's an instinct, and it's an instinct because it's familiar. It's also not particularly subtle. You want to describe your characters in ways that make sense. So maybe your character at the beginning of the book is out for a jog and then like a strand of hair falls in their face. Right then and there, you can describe the texture of their hair, the color of their hair, you can describe the way they're built, because if they're jogging, maybe they're getting really tired because they're out of shape, or maybe they're in great shape so the jogging feels great. You don't need to rely on a mirror or a picture of somebody's parents in order to describe what your character looks like. The next common writer mistake is the need to start your book with action. Everybody knows that you want a good hook at the beginning of your book. You want to grab the reader's attention, and a lot of people think in order to grab people's attention, you gotta throw a bunch of stuff at them. You don't. You don't need to just all of a sudden put your reader in the middle of this chaotic battle, because if you do that, your reader doesn't care about the main character. They don't even know who the main character is. They don't know if they should be rooting for them. They don't know who the bad guy is. They don't know the situation, so they don't even know how dire the circumstances are. You most certainly can start with action. You can start with the kind of action I just described, but it's gonna be more difficult than if you just think about starting with something intriguing. If you're gonna start with action, you're more than likely not gonna be able to describe your characters, because let's face it, if I'm in the middle of a battle, I'm not thinking about what Joe over there looks like or the color of his hair. I'm trying to stay alive. Just know that if you do want to start with something really intense at the very beginning, your reader is probably going to need to be settled down pretty quickly after, maybe as soon as the very next chapter, and they're going to need some explaining. The last common writer mistake that people make is not something that just pertains to the beginning, unlike some of the others. It's something that they use throughout the entire book, and that would be the excessive use of italics, ellipses, etc. Often, writers will put lots of things in italics because they hear something a certain way, they hear emphasis on a certain word, and they think it's crucial to that sentence to put that word in italics. It's often not crucial, and depending on the context of the sentence, a lot of times readers are going to put emphasis where it needs to go anyway. If you have too many of those kinds of things, it starts to look sloppy, it starts to look amateurish, and it gets distracting. Also, over excess of ellipses just feels cheesy. It feels really corny, because if you have this really intense moment, or somebody's thinking about something and they realize something and then it's ... and that's done all the time, it loses its effect. You want to use italics and ellipses and other such things when it's really necessary to really grab the reader's attention. It's kind of like people who rarely yell. When they do yell, you listen. You get scared. If somebody yells all the time, it's no big deal. Anyway, there you go. That's it for 5 common mistakes that writers make. They are, of course, not absolute. You can most definitely do any of these things, and you can do them extremely well. But just if you're a first-time writer, recognize that, you know, it might be just what you're used to from movies and TV shows. It might not actually be this moment of brilliance. If you guys have read any books that do the things I mentioned and you thought it was not great, let me know what those books were, and if you've found that you read other books that did these things extremely well, let me know that too. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Click the little bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos, and check out some more of my videos right over here. Thanks so much for watching. I do have a whole playlist of other writer-inspired stuff, so if you're interested in that, check that out, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.